In this episode, we are going to be reviewing Psycho 2 from 1983. This was directed by Richard Franklin. It was written by Tom Holland, and it starred Anthony Perkins, Vera Miles, Meg Tilly, and Robert Loggia. Welcome to Robert Bellissimo at the Movies. This is a YouTube video podcast where we explore movies from all over the world and talk about how those stories were told on film. I want to welcome back Janaé Rachel Ballot, who is a writer and director. She recently did a web series pilot called Managed, which is fantastic. And she wrote a biopic on one of the stars of the film, Anthony Perkins, that we're discussing today in Psycho 2, called Don't Fence Me In. Janaé, welcome back. Thanks again for joining me again so soon.
So soon, yeah. It's about time, right?
The sequel that often people, I mean, my feeling is if you haven't seen it, you're sort of like, oh God, how could they have done a sequel to Psycho, that this classic film? And as we know, sequels often do not pan out well, with some rare exceptions like The Godfather, for example. And some others. But, this is actually in some ways, it's more interesting than the first one, to me anyways, psychologically speaking. I know some people prefer it. Like, I'm not a big Tarantino fan, but Tarantino had said that he likes the second one better than the original. I'm curious, in general, what your thoughts are just watching it again recently on this one.
As opposed to when I watched it when I was 14.
Yeah. Yeah, how was it then and how is it now?
Yeah, I have to say that I was, when I was 14 and I watched this, and for your viewers, I watched all of Perkins's films when I was 14 because that's when I was introduced to him, and that's when I wanted to write a feature about his life. And but yeah, so I watched this movie and I went, oh my gosh, this is the score is frightening. It just gets under your skin. And the movie in itself, it felt like I can really sympathize with Norman Bates. And that's something that's really difficult to do. You sympathize with a serial killer, which is just so weird. I even stumbled on that line. It's just so weird coming out of your own mouth. But, and then this time around, it was more of like, whoa, I see a lot more than I did back then. It wasn't just a sequel that I was watching. This is like a game of cat and mouse, and it's more psychological than horror. I appreciate, because I do not like horror. I don't like horror.
Yeah, neither do I. Generally, there are exceptions. I love, Rosemary's Baby. I love the original Haunting, The Shining.
The Shining is
yeah.
The Shining is that's you want to open a door, watch The Shining.
Yeah exactly. I've never, when I originally had a co-host on this show, we did a month of horror because he's a huge horror fan. So for all of October in 2020, we did nothing but horror. And I literally a few nights could not sleep because I'm not used to it, right? So some of the movies were, either repulsed me or kept me up at night. But yeah, I mean, some work really, really well. And this is definitely one of them. So have you only seen it 2 times, or have you seen it more than that?
No, I've seen it more than 1 or 2 times, but it was this time around to prep for this review that I watched it, and I was just like, this is a game of cat and mouse. And the amount of gray areas that went into the script of, no character is necessarily right and no character is wrong. I mean, they're all really, really insane and crazy, and they all have stooped so low, and they're playing a dangerous game of, who's a chicken, basically.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you have Vera Miles, who plays she's she's a Loomis, which means that in the original, she married Janet Leigh's boyfriend.
Right.
And so right off the bat, that's a little strange.
Yeah.
But so Janet Leigh's sister in the original is back, and she's wanting this justice, wanting this, revenge on Bates. And what follows with that is like, okay, I understand. He comes out of the mental institution. It's been 22 years later. He is stable, and he goes back to the freaking motel where all of the killings happen. I mean, this guy walks up to the stairs, and in the very beginning, when he first sees it, he has clear signs of PTSD. And it's just like any moment this guy's going to snap.
Yeah.
And you're putting him in like the hot spot to do so. But then with Vera Miles' character, she does all of these really crazy things in order to drive him mad again and get her justice. But I can't really go like, she's right. She's absolutely right in doing so. She's completely justified in doing so. And I love that about stories. I love when, both characters, or not one character is just specifically right. It's very morally ambiguous and questionable.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And all of Hitchcock's films kind of border on like the shades of gray. Like there's never any clear protagonist or clear antagonist, good people versus bad people ever. I wouldn't say his films, with the exception of some, were necessarily psychologically complicated, but because even he said one thing he had wished was maybe he shouldn't have dealt with things in such two-dimensional ways. But I mean, they're also heavy on plot, so yeah, sometimes depending on the story, you may have to give up one to get the other. But it feels like he did it. I mean, it feels like there are similar shots from Psycho, like the high angle shots when he's right outside the bedroom, which is where he killed where you see him come out and kill the police officer in the first one. They were often using that shot. Use of POV was something Hitchcock did a lot in Psycho and a lot of films, and you saw that as he was walking up the stairs and going into the house, which you very much was the same shots with Vera Miles in the first one as she's approaching the house. It's POV going up the stairs. And Tom Holland, who wrote it, I actually saw an interview with him, and I thought he did a great job of getting a sequel to this, because it has that same sense of irony and humor, black humor with suspense and horror, all rolled into one. It's very much that roller coaster ride of feelings that Hitchcock often did. Like, I thought, wow, I mean, here you are in the early 80s, right after Hitchcock died, and you're like, okay, we're going to do a sequel to like his best known film. I mean, wow. I mean, I wouldn't be able to sleep, I mean, what a challenge.
It's a real challenge. I mean, I know that they had like the blessing of Hitchcock's daughter, but it's still, as a filmmaker myself, I would be questioning every move I would be making. It's a real challenge to be able to take something that was groundbreaking in the 1960s, and not just 1960, but like in cinema history, and to do a sequel on that. And I know that like they didn't have Tony locked in. He said no originally, so Christopher Walken was going to be in it.
Yeah, I can see him doing that. Actually, you would have been a good Norman as well.
You would have been. I mean, it would have been a really interesting Norman. Like, you just need a little motel and stuff that I don't know how to do. Anybody can do like
not a bad walk-in.
Really bad. And so, but yeah, it's like, but you just get like any actor in that sort of thing, and kind of dangle that bait and go, well, we have this person, and Perkins was like, no, like this is the guy that I've been typecast as. I'm gonna come back, and I'm gonna do it right. So yeah, I mean, it really is an undertaking, but they did it really, really well. And I'm really surprised, because like you said, sequels, they do not pay off. They especially don't pay off for me. I always say about like movies, specifically Jurassic Park, like Jurassic World and all those movies. Like
Yeah.
I know that these are franchises. I understand like the whole mechanics of it all, but those are my memories. They're my memories. So I'm not going, don't steal those away from me. And I think that Anthony Perkins and Tom Holland, wait, that's the writer's name?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Tom Holland. And the director, they all knew that they can't mess around.
Yeah.
They have to make a really solid picture here. And they did. So
yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I know you were touching on the story earlier, and it's heavy on plot, but I think it has there's a real heart to the story, because I think it's really saying that everyone is sort of a little bit like Norman in life. Everyone's a little crazy, because as you said, the protagonists here, Vera Miles and her daughters are I mean, I know obviously her daughter wasn't in the first one, but Vera Miles in the first one was a total protagonist, one of the protagonists, and was a good person trying to find out who killed her sister. And here she's like practically an antagonist. Like you said, you can understand her feelings that they're letting out the person who killed her sister, but she goes about it in a way to get him back in prison, he was in a mental institution, by basically trying to make him snap again so they'll send him back. Now, and Hitchcock being a moralist, this falls right into that as well, because she obviously in the last 20 years hasn't found any kind of sense of acceptance or forgiveness, or the sense, or empathizing.
No.
Yeah, empathizing with the fact that he was mentally ill. Like they knew everything about him. Like he had blackouts. He wasn't necessarily even aware of what he was doing. And you saw that in this film, when he blacks out up in the attic and they lock him in, and then he was convinced he must have killed.
In that moment you can really empathize, or you go, oh, Norman, like, and that's the complete opposite of what we saw in Psycho. We were more like, who is this man? And he's kind of charming and he's very boyish, but we did feel like something was off with him. And and this time around, it's really just like, whoa, you are being provoked into madness. And as you're saying, he gets locked in this room, and then he says, like, it's starting again with this like really sad, sorrowful face, that he's going mad again. He's being driven mad again. But the reality is, he's being like gaslighted by these people, and by the mother, by the daughter, and where like he walks into his mom's room and all of the furniture was rearranged, and he's saying that's not how it was before. And so it is a testament to the writing and the directing to be able to say, like, no, like I just really love this of the movie, that one is not right, one's not wrong, and one's not, you don't sympathize more with Norman or more with Vera Miles. And because I do understand her motive, I understand her reasoning. Her sister died, and people can but she has not let go. She has not mourned. She hasn't done any work, and she's just been sitting there, as Norman has been sitting there for 22 years. And she waits till he comes out and sees that the justice system is not doing anything. So she better put it in her hands. And it's crazy. It's like two pro players like going at each other.
Yeah, exactly. And I like how they handled sort of which is what they did in the first one, which is throughout the whole film, you're like, is it him? Is it his mother? Who is this murderer? And then in the end, in the end, they reveal everything. But here it's like, we already know who he is. So when he's working, Robert Loggia, who's his, I guess he's the parole officer.
I think so.
Yeah, and he gets him a job at this diner where he meets Mary, who's Vera Miles' daughter in this. And as he invites her to his place, like you're thinking, oh, what's he gonna do? Is he going to kill her? Has he not changed? Is he not cured? And then, you find that no, he's afraid to be in the house alone. He just wants to be with someone. Like he's totally vulnerable. But then as these murders start to pop up throughout the film, in his basement, at one minute you think it's him, at one minute you don't. So it kind of keeps teetering back and forth like the first one does. And then of course, the classic irony, and I did laugh because I thought the black humor played quite well, is that in the end he didn't do anything until he didn't do anything. And actually, it was Mary who ends up like killing Robert. I mean, I know it was an accident, right? But Robert Loggia and her mother's basically, and her as well, are basically, as we said, driving this whole trying to make him go insane plot forward. And the irony is that they successfully do that, but they both die for it, which was not their plan. And he then kills this other woman who is his biological mother all along. And it's so crazy. It's so crazy. Yeah. I mean, I didn't see that coming, even though I'd seen it before. I forgot. I couldn't remember how it ended. And then as this old woman was coming up, and of course she worked at the diner, and then and he's like, yes, I was your real mother. And then boom, hits her with the shovel. Oh my God. And he goes right back to what he was doing before, where with the corpse and talking to her. And I just thought, that is so fun. There's something really funny about that.
It is funny because it feels like pulling a huge like one over on the audience of going, okay, yeah, he didn't do any of it, but this is at the very end. Norman just like goes back to it in like a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And it is funny. It's so crazy just hearing you talk about it and go through all of that. It's like one thing after another, to where the story is this. It's just it never stops. And you have Meg Tilly, the daughter. You have her completely. There's even like a love interest going on. That's implied between Tony and her. And she says, like, Norman needs me, to her mom, to Vera Miles. And while Vera Miles has like broken into his motel and they're talking. And so there's just a lot of stuff that's going on, starting with the fact that she took her sister's boyfriend that we saw in the original Psycho in the very beginning. The whole reason why she stole that money, she's married to him now. She's married, or she's the widower, and had a kid. And so it's just like, it's pretty sick and twisted. A lot of these characters, they definitely, they have no qualms when it comes to getting what they want. And it is interesting, but I'm glad that the Black humor is still, it's very, very present. And that's what Psycho always did for me, is it made you feel that tension, and then all of a sudden it would just kind of have this levity, this light levity come out. And it's both of them are pretty amazing films.
Yeah, I agree. And it plays you like a fiddle, because you feel like you know where it's going, and then it goes somewhere else, and you never really quite know. It's never really and Hitchcock's films were like that. And he even said that to Truffaut, and Truffaut, he's like, if an audience says, oh, I know where this is going, his reaction was like, oh yeah, really? Well, guess what? And his films are always like that. And just like talking about this story out loud, like they sound so silly. They sound so ridiculous. And his stories, if you look at them on paper, sounded rather silly. But then of course, once he, because he knew the medium so well, once he, shot it, cut it, put music on it, he
storyboarded it before. Yeah,
exactly. He knew where how to fill the screen with emotion, and they do that here. So
it just, to your point, like hearing some of the plots and hearing how silly they are, Perkins, he was adamant on making sure that Norman Bates was a character that we can sympathize with, that he that Psycho, and then, there's a Psycho 3, there's a Psycho 4.
Yeah, I haven't seen those.
Oh, you should. It's very interesting to be able to see like this whole trilogy.
Yeah.
But it's I think that this movie definitely gets to me more than Psycho does, because even though there's some things that are taken to the extreme, it is what happened, or what Anthony did say about Psycho, is that it's not like monsters are running around. There is not, the supernatural or the undead or the occults. There's not any of these things. It's actually something that can really happen in life.
Yeah.
And that rings very, very true for Psycho 1 and Psycho 2. It is something that can happen in real life, where you have like the boy next door, and you rely on this guy to just have you come in and give you a room for the night, and just in one moment your life changes. And for Psycho 2, it's the same, of going like, well, there are people who, at least from my interpretation, there are people who really just go the lowest of the low despite everything. They're kind of in this, like, stuck in this mindset due to whatever they've gone through or going through. And so they want to get the revenge, and they will not stop.
Yeah.
So all of these things are like things that will happen and have happened in life. And that's what Psycho 2 and 1 just does, like, really, really well. It makes you terrified. It makes me terrified to go, yeah, this is like real life stuff. It's real life stuff.
Well, it's a good point, and because this film and Hitchcock's films in general, you're right. Like, he never goes with anything that's like supernatural. Like, it's always like people doing these things.
Yeah, people. Exactly. People.
Yeah.
You know how terrifying people are, Robert?
Exactly. Oh, I know.
They're absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
And so you just have like strangers on a train. Okay. So you have somebody just sit across from you, and that's Hitch. And you're like, yeah, I can believe this stuff. I can believe that somebody just on a train just sits down across from me and wants to, make this pact to kill somebody or kill, and this killing pact. But it's Rope, it's all these different movies of Hitch that makes you go, wow, like that does make me feel very uncomfortable, not in a way of like, okay, there's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre getting on, putting on the skin or what have you. I haven't seen those movies because I'm too terrified. But there's this other area of going, oh, this is not only terrifying, it could be like potentially triggering for some people. So, I mean, I say that almost facetiously. So,
yeah, no, it's something that he always grappled with, because yes, on the one hand, it's people doing things. It's not like robots or monsters or aliens or demons or something that you saw, not to criticize those things, because occasionally I do find, like, The Exorcist, for example, I do really like. But he sort of always used people, and often the criticism was, oh, well, these, like, critics would say, well, these stories are not plausible, and his answer to that was, it's it doesn't matter. It's about it's rooted in feelings, and that's what it's all about. Like, for example, is like some of the twists and turns are quite ridiculous, but because it's so rooted in themes like revenge and guilt and sin, and those are things that we all can relate to. So he brings it to this far-fetched realm, but they're always packed with emotions. They're always packed with some sort of essence, like this film and all of his movies. So it's interesting how there's a real power in that, because for me, I usually don't go for these kind of films, but when they're done so well, they're really engaging, and we can kind of go. People can debate the value sometimes of these kind of stories. But in terms of, some kind of enlightenment about life or some kind of exploration of behavior. But sometimes I just think, well, okay, but it's a story. They're storytellers, and there's there's got to be a reason why people are still so fascinated by the likes of Hitchcock or a film like this all these years. I mean, I know that's a whole other topic,
No,
but
I think we should touch on that though. I mean, especially just Norman Bates, to kind of keep it where we're already at. I mean, I find Norman Bates as a character to be really interesting because he's rooted from trauma. And he was born out of trauma of like his mother dying. And and if you see Psycho 3 and Psycho 4, which I have, you'll get to know more about Norman, and you get to know more about his life.
And there's even the TV show. I haven't seen that either.
Yeah,
I think it's called Bates Motel, I think.
Yeah. I mean, Norman Bates is, you're reminding me now. Norman Bates is like a very popular, like it is so popular character that AFI considers him to be out of like 100 like greatest heroes and villains, or he is below Darth Vader and above Hannibal Lecter. No, above Darth Vader and below Hannibal Lecter. And so he's rated, and that's for like 1, 2, 3. And so it is pretty incredible to think that like, wow, like this character has surpassed so many different villains that we've seen, and it's because a lot of it had to do with Perkins, and it had to do with his performance. It so much so that he stated many times that it hurt his career and made him just seen as one thing, and he just did it too good. He did it too well.
Yeah.
And if you just imagine that, an actor doing it just so well, like Heath Ledger. And Heath Ledger and the Joker. I mean, things have changed since then. He probably would have been celebrated a lot more, and offers would have come through. But I'm sure a lot of those offers that went across his desk, Ledger's, if he was alive, it would have been a lot of similar horror type roles, because they're seeing one thing and then they want to go after that thing. They want to duplicate it. And it is a testament to just how good Perkins is as Norman Bates, and how you can sympathize and you can kind of go, I mean, the amount of people that literally have told me he is just so cute. He's so cute. And I'm like, it's Norman Bates. He's a serial killer. And it's and he has spawned this whole thing of like the TV show You, where you have Penn Badgley getting like all these tweets saying like, I want you to be my husband. I want you to love just like you love in the TV show You. Like, you will murder somebody and you'll murder and I don't know if you've seen that show, but the people who have, it's like, whoa, like you got like this phenomenon. It definitely starts with Norman Bates, of this like cute serial killer that's kind of bookish and tick ridden, and come on, let me go make you some milk and some toast, and then I'll like, wait, there's a knife. And it is something in itself very, very unique what they captured and what Perkins created. So.
Well, I mean, he always has this ability to be like extremely vulnerable and extremely creepy and scary and sweet and charming, like all wrapped into one with this guy. I mean, obviously we saw more of him in this one as opposed to the first one, because the first one was like who is doing this, and then in the end there's a reveal. But the second one is, well, we know who he is, and
Norman's story.
And it is thick on plot, but it does go more into the man. And even just like when he was with Mary, and she and just the way he kept saying, my mother called, it's my mother, and just like and he's just saying it, but I'm like, what is he doing that is making that so creepy? And there was even a line, and I had read that this had happened in rehearsal, or I'm not, maybe but
I
when
do.
she
Yeah.
was, you probably know what I'm gonna say, because she was, when it was the early scene when she was looking for a knife to cut the sandwich that he offered her, and then he goes, do you have a knife? And he goes, I'm afraid. And then there's like slight pause, and he goes, I don't. And I just thought, wow, that was actually, the line is just, I'm afraid I don't, but he broke it into, I'm afraid, pause, I don't, and now it took on new meaning. Was that the story you thought I was going to tell?
There's that, and then it just the follow-up of I think the line is, he stumbled on it in rehearsal as well, of I don't have any cutlery.
That was another one. Yeah.
And the director's like, keep that in, keep that's Norman Bates, keep that in.
Yeah,
so
that was great.
Know how to like break it up, and like, when the police officers, like the rhythm of the speech, and it is amazing how he's able to do that, and how he did that. But like when the police officers come, they're like, hey, where were you, Norman? Or are you thinking, or you did drugs, or you ever done drugs, or like marijuana, or smoking marijuana, when kids, came in and one got murdered at the house. There was this funny part to me that the police officer basically like asked, like, are you one to party, Norman? And he goes, no, like has like a little kid. And he's just like, no, like these
he's
little
like, he's so surprised,
Yeah, like, oh no, mother told me not to. Like, no. And so it's this, and he has like this, he had the pulse on like this guy, he regresses, he's like a child at times, he's also like, hi, but not too over and the top like that. He really has it controlled, like, you said, he's earnest. He's like, well, I run a motel, and you just like look at him, you're like, how can this guy hurt a fly?
Yeah,
that's the
exactly
point. Yeah,
exactly. It's hard to pull off. It's really hard to pull off. And like sometimes, as an actor myself, I think, okay, well, if it were me, I probably would just play it straight. But I'm not sure if he necessarily is just doing that, because there are these subtle choices that he brings it, as you said, to all these different dimensions, where I don't know if that's just him under those circumstances, or what, how much of it is like something he's consciously doing. I mean, we mentioned some of the things were, but it's really fascinating. Like he's a fascinating actor.
Yeah. I mean, because you could look at Norman Bates, and you can look at any other movie of his and any performance, and it is different. It's completely different.
That's the thing. It's like, well, that's why I'm like, I don't think he's just playing it, like he's not just being like him, and so that we're seeing all these different sides of him because of the nature of the different scenes. Because you're right, like if you look at him in the Goodbye Again, or The Trial, or Fear Strikes Out, and like I'm not like, oh yeah, that's Norman. Like I'm seeing different characters in every movie.
I see different characters. I see also one that's extremely nuanced in his choices. I don't know which ones, like you said, intentional or unintentional, or just, on the day, like rehearsing, you're just going to cutlery. But I don't know. But I know that he obviously Norman Bates never left him. And from 1960 on to Psycho 2 and like 1980, 3 or something, right?
This is 83. Yeah.
I cannot believe I remember this stuff. But yeah, it is something, it's something wild. And I remember, I'll just share something that because I can't believe I remember that stuff, like the actual year.
Oh, I do too. Trust me, I'm great. I'm just as wacky.
Well, it's like 7 years of research of Perkins.
Yeah.
Your whole mind wacky, and we're talking about a guy who, whew, yeah, he had a few screws loose. But hey, so do I. So
Yeah,
yeah,
so do we all, based on this film, is definitely
y'all,
telling us that.
yeah, well, definitely do. But I remember being on the back lot of Universal, and I went so many times. And I remember going with Savannah a lot too, because we did a fair amount of research together. Um, and there was just something, speaking about Psycho and speaking about Hitchcock, and they shot there. You would go up this hill, and then you would make this turn, and immediately once you made this turn, you saw the Bates Motel.
So
And
that's still up there.
it's still up
Oh
there.
wow,
Yeah,
that's amazing. I wasn't sure. what they did with the
yeah, no,
those
it's still
sets.
up there. You go up there, and I felt it. It is like you can hear people say this stuff and go, oh, okay, all right, you sound like you just got back from Joshua Tree. But the energy really does shift, and you really do feel like, whoa, like this is something different, as opposed to when I was just passing like the Real Housewives set. Like this actually feels like it's grounded in cinema history. There
Yeah.
have been many people who walked on this location. It's a location as much as it's like, a tourist attraction. And so and then I even went into like the house many times and walked up the stairs and saw like, okay, there's really something here that is tangible. And it's very much like the movies in itself. And I, whether I was projecting or not, because of my love for and appreciation for Psycho, it is, you'll feel it. You'll feel it one day. It's still there. Man,
Did you hear or see Mrs. Bates?
I did. I met her. And we had a cup of tea.
Could you imagine? That would be really freaky.
I will actually, there is Mrs. Bates. She's up there. And so there's an animatronic that's up there that just
Oh
has
wow, that's
all
God.
over. So you walk into the Bates Motel, and the Bates Motel has the same wallpaper as it. They did renovate it recently, but they do not, when I went, it was the same thing, but it was like molding and cracking, and it was something like a time capsule. And then you go up the stairs in the house, and you make sure to get up the stairs because you could fall right through due to how old it is. And then you see Mother, and you see that she's just kind of leaning there right next to the window, and she has these cobwebs all over her. But they're real cobwebs. It's not like, Fright Night or Horror Night or whatever Universal does.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank God they didn't like take it down. Like they don't know that these movies are going to be hits like 1960. Like I wonder, like I imagine that takes up a lot of space, right? Like I don't know.
Yeah, it takes
I'm surprised they don't say, okay, yeah, like we got to move on and do the next movie. So I wonder why they keep, like, that house is not used in anything else, right? It's not like they just recycled it, or maybe it is.
I mean, like for the Bates Motel, they did like promos, the TV show. They did.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Right.
But it's not used for anything else. It's just sitting there, and
it's interesting.
A tourist, a tourist attraction. It's a tourist attraction.
Yeah. No, thank God they did, because like you said, it's a piece of cinema history. So, but I'm just surprised that in like when they wrap, they don't just think, okay, we got to
let's
take it down.
Yeah, let's get
space.
it down.
Yeah,
it's but they didn't. Yeah,
wow.
You make a good point, because who knows? Who really
who
does?
knows? Yeah,
they don't, and they didn't. But they're like, let's keep this up. And
wow. I gotta go one day. That's pretty. I didn't realize it was a tourist attraction. That's cool.
We'll go together, and we'll have we will have a cup of tea.
We'll have a drink with Mother.
We'll have 2 rooms. Yeah. Drink with Mother. Yeah.
I must say, I really also like Meg Tilly and Vera Miles. I mean, everybody, Robert Loggia, Dennis Franz, who is, well known in like Law and Order, and who the guy who ends up taking over the motel, and Norman fires him. But Vera Miles, I think I've only seen her in Psycho, The Wrong Man, both by Hitchcock. This, and there's another film she did with Joan Crawford that I really, really like, where she also plays more of the antagonist. Like she's up to no good. She was really had a lot of range. I mean, in this film, I mean, she's ruthless. I mean, she's a really, really good actor. I don't know how you feel about her.
No, people call me intimidating, and I saw her just last night. I was like, whoa, please, like, just calm down for a second. I need a chance to breathe. But yeah, it's she was a fan. Is she? I don't know if she's alive or not.
She is still alive. She's like in her early 90s.
Still alive.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Oh, she's brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. No, she was really, really good. And I'm not very familiar with Millie. Sorry, Meg. What's her name? Meg Tilly.
She was a man. You're not familiar. You've only like grilled me about my favorite movies, and my favorite. I finally succumbed, and that's The Big Chill is one of them.
Oh yeah, The Big Chill. Yeah.
Tilly was in The Big Chill, and so, but no, I mean
I'm bound to miss a few, right?
Well, I guess so. I mean, just show me your true colors. But no, Meg Tilly, she hated this experience.
I read that.
I did too. But then later she said that she loved it. So I don't really know which one's which. But I think I think she probably did hate it because Perkins really, really tried to get her fired halfway through shooting.
I read that. Yeah.
It was just he had very much his diva moments, and I believe that was one of them. So yeah, I mean, I think that she's good. She's very good in playing it feels very 80s while watching her, like the acting and the sweater, the red sweater.
The style.
Wearing. Yeah. The style. But she is good in making this she's sort of like the pawn that Vera Miles and Anthony Perkins sort of move, and
right.
And it's interesting.
Well, she really brought like the element of guilt into it, because she's very much part of trying to make him go back into the mental institution. But then because she starts to feel sorry for him and empathize with him, and as you said, it's even somewhat romantic. She then starts to feel so bad, and you saw that in a lot of Hitchcock's films. Like he was a Catholic, he was interested in themes of guilt and sin and people paying for doing things that are wrong, and we see that in this film. I mean, the two people who die are doing the most wrong in the film. But at the same time, she had more of a conscience. She spent more time with him. I love the scene where he's like starts to break down, and he suddenly feels as though like she even smelled like his mother, like the good sides of her. And it was it's like a weird scene, but it was it was so touching at the same time. It's just I thought it was. I love that.
It's touching. It's also you smell like
it was like toast or something.
Like cheese on toast or something. When it's just like just say the thing that I've already forgotten. How do we say it again? Grilled cheese.
Something like that. Yeah.
But he says like cheese on toast or something like that. But yeah, there's like serious, now that you're speaking about it, I'm going, wow, there's serious moments where it's just like flat out funny, just to make
for sure.
Yeah,
for
just
sure.
to make me totally uncomfortable and going, what the heck is going? Oh, this is something that is just really, really outlandish.
Yeah, but the acting is so good, like that you laugh, but then you sort of are pulled into like feeling for him, because he's literally crying. Like he's a guy who's like in pain over this relationship with his mother. So it's interesting. I mean, it's pretty interesting. But I thought that was a really good aspect of the film was there this relationship and like this somewhat of a romance that as you said was suggested about 3/4 of the way through Um, but she was really good. I'll have to see more of her films, but I haven't. Like I said, I'm just looking at her IMDb. Other than The Big Chill, I don't think I've seen her in anything.
I believe it's her sister. She's related to Jennifer Tilly. So
Jennifer, why is that? Why does that name ring a bell?
Jennifer Tilly, she was in called we're on this topic of horror. She was in like the Chucky Bride,
Oh, okay. That's why I don't know.
Bitch. You see Psycho 3, and a lot of people will get pissed off about what I'm about to say. So I'm happy to say it. Psycho 3, everything just goes off the rails.
Yeah, the third that it's got to be hard to make a third here.
Yeah, and that's one that Perkins directed.
That's right. Yeah.
Attempted to. So yeah, I mean, me obviously with all of this Perkins talk and a biopic, we're just the best of friends. And my mother to me, I got him up in my apartment somewhere. Oh my gosh, that sounds horrible. I already said something so horrible on the trial review. I don't want to say.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah, yes. I'm gonna shut up. So I don't have anything left to say.
Did you spot the Hitchcock silhouette in this?
I did, yeah. I the famous, it's like his Rotown figure. Yeah. It's in one of the rooms, Robert. I don't feel like talking.
It's like one of the very first scenes as he goes home and he actually I think it's when he brings her over after they finish their shift at work. Because at first she didn't want to go into the mother's room. No, he didn't want to go into his mother's room, and then she convinces him, and then you see the which of course was intentional, the silhouette. I actually have it on my mug here because I have a Hitchcock mug, which when you fill it with coffee, all sorts of like writing pops up on it. I actually destroyed it, as you can see, and my mother bought it for me. I'm sorry, Mom, but it's been ruined. But the silhouette is still there.
That reminds me of like the commercials that would come on of the VHS tapes of all of like of the birds, of Psycho, of like the
Hitchcock that image, yeah.
collection. Yeah, it does, and it reminds me of like, and we got the mug for you. Just call 1-800-Hitchcock now.
Yes, yeah. You can order these from me. They're all ruined, but I have a bunch. No.
What is your Instagram page? That's
oh, everyone knows that. Yeah, go there. You can order it there.
Yeah, it's a button. You just click or tap when you're
Right. Well, Janaé, thanks again. Thanks again for.
Sorry. Oh, we're done. Thank you.
I don't have anything else to say about Psycho 2, other than it's a great sequel. I don't know. In a way, it is more interesting than the first. Dare I say that? I mean, some people would have Hitchcock fans may have my head, but I don't know. There's. I mean, they're two different movies, so it's apples and oranges, but it's probably more interesting for me, just psychologically speaking, because I'm more into that. But I suppose, I mean, my instinct is to say the first one maybe is a more interesting story, but I don't know. What do you think? Would you, if you had to pick? Okay. Yeah, do you have a preference over the two?
Yeah, so we're just gonna be like Quentin Tarantino. Great. No, I think I don't have a preference. I think they're not the same movie. And one was defying the era of 1960 and censorship and all these different things. And so I don't prefer one or the other. Yeah. They're both my babies.
Yeah. It's like choosing between child 1 or 2.
Yeah. And it's just too difficult,
Yeah.
What should I do? I can't do it.
I'm surprised it's not as discussed as I'm not really sure why, because I mean, I suppose because the first one is so iconic for, the shower scene and so many other reasons, but
you'll be surprised among fans. It's more the sequels that are more discussed is Psycho 3. And
oh, really?
That's the movie that the fans really, really love. And they talk about more than any. They think that it's a classic, and they think that it's the one that you see in order laptop, see if it does anything.
Okay, it's good now. It's good
Oh.
now. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, no, Psycho 3 is the one that like all fans are the most rabid about. So they find that movie to be the movie to watch. I was surprised that Tarantino took to 2 because I have only heard about 3, and
That's it. Wow.
yeah.
Wow. I'm surprised. I'm surprised to hear that. I mean, I haven't seen them. Or is that a joke?
I'm just kidding. Okay, we just had a technical difficulties, so I'm laughing at the fact that I had to do that again, and Robert was so great in responding, but I'm sorry.
See, I'm acting in the moment. You see, I'm acting as if I haven't heard it before.
I saw it completely. That's another thing you got to keep it. We have a lot of great little gems, and so I like to keep that.
A lot of good bloopers. I'll just keep it all in. Note to the editor, don't cut them out, which is me. So. Well, Janaé, thanks again for coming on. Always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure. We'll find a new one. We'll definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you are you're only on Instagram, right?
Yeah, no, I will not do any more. Yeah. I can. I mean, how many platforms are there? And
there's a lot.
And stuff like that. Yeah. I think Instagram is it's very much like Bates's house to me. Like I kind of don't want to be in it, but sometimes the curiosity makes me want to just go in. So yeah, I am on Instagram at Janaé_Ballot. And my delivery should say and tell everybody how much I love Instagram. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. And you can follow Janaé there and also keep track on the Anthony Perkins biopic, which
Robert will be the first to know about everything.
Yes. Yeah. Perfect. Looking forward to it. Okay, great, Janaé. Well, thanks again, and come again sometime soon.
I will. I'll pop in tomorrow. All right.
Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I want to thank all of my members on Patreon. If you are interested in becoming a member of my Patreon, go to patreon.com/Robert Bellissimo at the movies for full details. Patreon is bonus content created by content creators like myself, and mine is based on polls that I put out at the beginning of every single month, which you can vote on, which means you will be very much a part of the decision making as to what I create on Patreon month in and month out. Patreon is a great way for content creators like myself to earn an additional income while we keep putting out free content on YouTube or audio podcasts. And it will give me actually more flexibility to do even more episodes every single week on YouTube or the audio version of my podcast, which of course is absolutely free. So if you like my work and you're interested in supporting me, head over to Robert Bellissimo at the movies for full details. And lastly, if this is your first time here, please consider subscribing by pressing the Robert Bellissimo at the movies logo. You will see it floating above my head in the top left corner to your top left in just a second. Just click on that and then click the bell in order to get a notification every time I release one of my new episodes or when I go live. Thank you so much, everyone. I will see you in the next episode.